feed material sources. We've talked about the 4 nutrients that your bird needs. So where do we get these nutrients from? That is what we'll talk about shortly. Before I go into that, you need to understand what we call feedstuffs. Feedstuffs are the materials we need or we use in producing feed. It's just like what you call your foodstuffs. So when you want to prepare your ogbono soup, or you want to prepare fried rice and chicken, you will need rice, you will need oil and a whole lot of that. You call those things foodstuff. So when we want to produce feed, there are some materials we need. We call them feedstuffs. Okay? So where do we get the nutrients we've listed for the production of our poultry feed? I want you to understand that every feed material has more than one nutrient inside. So your maize, for instance, does not just have carbohydrate inside, it also has protein inside, right? But what will make us categorize maize as a carbohydrate source is because carbohydrate is more in your maize than protein, right? So, but in your maize, there is carbohydrate and there's also your protein. There is a general principle that guides us when we want to categorize feedstuffs under the nutrients we've talked about, especially for your carbohydrates and your protein. So this general principle states that every feedstuff that has 40% less of carbohydrate is a protein source, and every feedstuff that has 40% less of protein is a carbohydrate source. If it is 40% less of carbohydrate and it's protein, it means that it has more protein and it makes it a protein source, right? You need to know and always remember this principle. So I would give you an example of these feed materials. For your protein, for instance, you have your soybean meal or soybean cake, you have your groundnut cake or meal, you have your fish meal, you have your blood meal, and some persons also use palm kernel cake. For your carbohydrate sources, you have your maize, you have your wheat bran, your rice bran, your millet, your sorghum offal, and your wheat offal. Then for your minerals, you have your methionine, you have lysine, you have table salt, and then for calcium that we talked about under your mineral sources, you have your limestone, you have your oyster shell, you have your periwinkle shell. Please note that periwinkle shell, limestone, oyster shell, and bone meal are all under calcium. So when you are providing calcium, you can choose from any of this. And then we talked about methionine and lysine. All these are under minerals. Then for your vitamins, you have what we call the premix. Now, if the premix is a combination of all vitamins that your bird needs. So this premix saves you the time of sourcing for vitamin D, for vitamin K, and the likes of it. In the second semester of this course, I will be teaching you how to source for the feedstuffs I've mentioned. I will teach you how to source for soybean meal, for groundnut cake, and for a lot of all the feedstuffs that I've mentioned. I will show you how to get, because some of you might not know what soybean meal is, or what wheat offal is, or what rice bran is. So in the other part of the course, I will teach you that.